I'm Forrest Sullivan, 32 years old, and I've spent the last decade helping my mom run Silver Lake Gardens, the most beautiful wedding venue in our county. My fiancée Jessica and I had been planning our perfect day there for months. After 5 years together, we were finally going to say our vows beneath the lakeside gazebo I built with my grandfather. But family can surprise you in the worst ways. I never imagined my own aunt and cousin would try to steal our wedding date right from under us, or that my mother would even consider letting them. The moment I walked into that office and heard my aunt saying, "Cancel that small wedding, we're booking for 300 guests," everything changed. If you're watching this, drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from. Hit that subscribe button while I tell you how I saved our wedding and learned who really had my back. Jessica and I met during a thunderstorm 6 years ago. I was leaving my office building when the skies opened up, and this beautiful woman with curly brown hair stood nearby, looking desperately at the downpour. I had an umbrella big enough for two. "Heading my way?" I asked, gesturing downtown. She smiled. "If your way involves shelter from this monsoon, then absolutely." We walked 15 blocks together, talking the entire time. By the time we reached her apartment, I knew I wanted to see her again. I asked for her number, and miraculously, she gave it to me. Our relationship grew from casual dates to something profound. Jessica's work as a pediatric physical therapist showed me her extraordinary compassion. The way she talked about helping children walk again, after accidents or illnesses, made me fall deeper in love with her. Meanwhile, my career as a software engineer at Axiom Technologies provided us with stability, though the hours could be demanding. After 5 years together, I knew it was time. I took Jessica to Silver Lake for a picnic, to the exact spot where the gazebo now stands. As the sun set over the water, painting the sky in oranges and pinks, I got down on one knee and asked her to be my wife. Her tearful yes was the happiest moment of my life. Silver Lake Gardens wasn't just any venue to us. My mother Diana started the business after divorcing my father when I was 15. She took her settlement money and purchased the lakeside property that had been in foreclosure. During my college years, I helped her renovate the main building, design the gardens, and build the website that now brings in most of their bookings. The gazebo holds special meaning too. During my sophomore year of college, my grandfather William and I built it together over one summer. He taught me everything about woodworking, measuring twice and cutting once. It was the last project we completed before cancer took him the following winter. Every time I see that gazebo, I feel his presence. Our wedding plans were modest compared to what my cousin Zach typically preferred. Jessica and I planned for 85 guests, mostly close friends and family. We wanted an intimate celebration, focusing on meaningful moments rather than extravagance. Zach, on the other hand, had always lived large. Growing up, if I got a bike for Christmas, he needed a motorized scooter. When I played recreational basketball, he joined 3 travel leagues. This competition wasn't friendly rivalry. There was always an edge to it, especially after my parents divorced and my mom became successful with the venue. My Aunt Pamela, my mother's older sister, never quite got over the fact that Diana had built something beautiful from her divorce settlement, while Pamela remained in an unhappy marriage. She criticized everything about Silver Lake Gardens from the beginning. "The parking lot is too small," or "those flowers won't survive the summer." Nothing was ever good enough. My father's absence left its mark on our family. After the divorce, he moved to Seattle and started a new family, barely keeping in touch. This abandonment probably contributed to my mother's desperate need to maintain peace in the remaining family, even at her own expense. When Jessica first met my mother, they connected immediately. They shared a love of gardening and classic films. Jessica would sometimes stop by the venue just to have tea with my mom, building their relationship independent of me. This meant the world to me, seeing the 2 most important women in my life form their own bond. The wedding date we chose had special significance. June 15th marked both our first date anniversary and would have been my grandmother's 85th birthday. She had been gone for 10 years, but including her memory in our celebration felt right. When Zach suddenly announced his engagement to Madison last Thanksgiving, I was genuinely happy for him. Madison seemed nice enough, though we'd only met her a few times. She came from money. Her father owned several car dealerships across the state, and her mother was a successful real estate agent. The massive diamond on her finger told that story clearly enough. "We're thinking about a summer wedding," Madison had said during that Thanksgiving dinner, looking directly at me. "The right venue makes all the difference, doesn't it?" At the time, I thought nothing of it. Why would I? Our date was already secured with a signed contract, complete with deposit. What could possibly go wrong? Jessica and I sat in my mother's office at Silver Lake Gardens, signing the final contract for our wedding. The spring sunlight streamed through the windows, highlighting the dusty wooden beams that crossed the ceiling of the converted farmhouse. My mother sat across from us at her desk, her reading glasses perched on her nose as she pointed out where we needed to initial. "And with that, it's official," Mom said, collecting the papers. "June 15th is all yours." Jessica squeezed my hand under the table. "I can't believe we're getting married in 4 months. We've already confirmed the florist for the wildflower arrangements," I said. "And the caterer loved our farm-to-table menu idea." "It's going to be perfect," Mom said, but something in her voice sounded off. Just perfect. Jessica didn't notice, already deep into describing her vision. "I want it to feel rustic, but elegant. My sister's making our centerpieces with those blue mason jars we've been collecting. And Forrest's college roommate, Jeff, agreed to play acoustic guitar for the ceremony." My mother's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, frowned, then declined the call. It buzzed again immediately. "Excuse me a moment," she said, stepping outside her office. Through the window, I could see her pacing on the porch, talking animatedly. When she returned, her smile seemed forced. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Just Pamela being Pamela," she said dismissively. "Now, about the table settings." 2 weeks later, we gathered at my mother's house for our monthly family dinner. These dinners had become tradition after my parents' divorce, my mother's attempt to keep the extended family connected. Aunt Pamela and Uncle Robert always attended, along with Zach and now Madison. We were midway through the main course when Zach tapped his glass with his fork. "Madison and I have set our wedding date," he announced, standing and pulling Madison up beside him. "June 15th. We're going to make it the event of the year." The table fell silent. Jessica's fork clattered against her plate. "That's our wedding date," I said, looking from Zach to my mother. "You know that." Aunt Pamela waved her hand dismissively. "Your little ceremony will be over by, 2 o'clock? Zach and Madison are planning an evening celebration, with 300 guests," Madison added, adjusting her engagement ring so the diamond caught the light. "Daddy's inviting all his business associates." "That's not possible," Jessica said quietly. "We've booked the entire venue for that day. We have a contract." "Contracts can be adjusted," Aunt Pamela said, looking pointedly at my mother. "Family helps family. Diana and I have already discussed some options." I turned to my mother, waiting for her to correct this misunderstanding. She stared down at her plate. "Mum?" I prompted. She cleared her throat. "I thought maybe we could work something out. The ceremony spaces are separate enough. Forrest and Jessica could have their ceremony at the gazebo at 11, and Zach and Madison could use the rose garden for theirs at 5. "And share the reception hall?" Jessica asked, her voice rising. "Have our guests leave so they can set up for theirs?" "Your guest list is less than 100 people," Aunt Pamela interjected. "Madison's father is paying for a premium experience." "We're not sharing our wedding day," I stated firmly. "We signed a contract for exclusive use of the venue." Madison pouted. "But June 15th is the only date that works for the band we want. They're flying in from Nashville." The argument escalated from there. Later that night, I confronted my mother in her kitchen while she loaded the dishwasher. "How could you even consider this?" I asked. "You know what this day means to us. Zach is my nephew, Forrest, and Madison's father offered to pay double the normal rate. So this is about money? Our wedding, our special day can be bought out? It's not that simple." She sighed, leaning against the counter. "Pamela has been impossible since they got engaged. She keeps saying I favor you, that I never support Zach. That's ridiculous. You've bent over backward for Zach his entire life. I just thought if we could compromise." There's no compromise here, Mom. It's our day. We signed a contract. She nodded slowly. You're right. I'll talk to Pamela tomorrow. But the damage was done. When Jessica and I drove home that night, she was uncharacteristically quiet. They wouldn't really take our date, would they? She finally asked, her voice small. No way, I assured her. We have a legal contract, and my mother wouldn't do that to us. Yet as the weeks passed, little things kept happening that made me question that certainty. My mother repeatedly rescheduled our planning meetings. When I stopped by the venue unexpectedly one afternoon, I overheard the venue manager, Tom, on the phone. Yes, Mrs. Davis, I understand this is a significant booking for us, he was saying, but the date is already reserved for another event. The best I can offer is the following weekend. When he saw me, he quickly ended the call. Was that about June 15th? I asked. Just someone inquiring about availability, he said evasively. You know how busy summer gets. Jessica began having nightmares about our wedding. In one, she arrived at the venue to find another bride in her spot at the gazebo. In another, we showed up and all the doors were locked. Maybe we should look at backup venues, she suggested one morning. Don't be ridiculous, I said, with more confidence than I felt. I'll talk to Tom today, get confirmation that everything's on track. Tom assured me our date was secure, though he seemed uncomfortable during our conversation. I chalked it up to the awkwardness of the situation my mother had created. Your wedding is still in the books, he said, showing me the venue's calendar. June 15th, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., exclusive use. I noticed the word tentative had been penciled next to our entry, but decided not to mention it. Instead, I took a photo of the calendar page with my phone when Tom stepped out to answer a call. The situation came to a head at Easter dinner. Madison's mother, Susan, was there as a special guest. During dessert, she and Aunt Pamela started discussing flower arrangements. The florist says he can fit 300 roses into the reception hall display, Susan said excitedly. And with the uplighting package, it will look spectacular for the evening reception. What uplighting package? I interrupted. For what evening reception? The table went quiet again. My cousin Zach smirked. Haven't you heard? He said. Madison's father is paying for a complete venue upgrade, new sound system, lighting package, expanded parking area, things you couldn't afford to contribute. In exchange for what? I demanded, looking at my mother. Aunt Pamela answered instead, in exchange for making reasonable accommodations for a larger, more prestigious event. Really, Forrest, your little bohemian wedding will be charming, but you must understand that Madison's family has certain expectations. Jessica stood abruptly. We need to go. Sit down, dear, Aunt Pamela said condescendingly. No one's canceling your ceremony. Just moving it to the morning and cutting our reception short? Jessica shot back. Or were you planning to have us serve your guests as well? Jessica, my mother began, but I cut her off. No, Mom. Answer the question. What exactly have you promised them? The ensuing argument revealed that Madison's father had offered $50,000 for venue renovations if they could have our date. Zach argued that their event would bring more business and prestige to Silver Lake Gardens. Aunt Pamela suggested we were being selfish for not compromising. That night, Jessica and I had our first major fight about the situation. You need to stand up to them more forcefully, she insisted. They're walking all over us because you won't put your foot down. What do you think I've been doing? I shot back. My mother owns the venue. If she decides to break our contract, what exactly am I supposed to do? Sue my own mother? Maybe. Or find another venue. Our invitations go out next week, Forrest. We can't keep pretending this isn't happening. She was right. Our perfect day was in jeopardy, along with the deposits we'd paid to vendors. But more than that, my trust in my family was being shattered piece by piece. April arrived, bringing with it cherry blossoms and increasing anxiety. Work became my refuge from wedding stress. I threw myself into a major software project, often staying at the office until 9 or 10 at night. Jessica dealt with vendors and sent out our invitations, occasionally updating me on new complications. Your mother canceled our menu tasting again, she told me one evening. That's the third time. I called my mother immediately. What's going on with the menu tasting? The chef had an emergency, she explained. We'll reschedule soon. Like you rescheduled the last 2 times? Mom, our invitations are out. 85 people are expecting to attend our wedding at your venue on June 15th. And they will, she insisted. Everything's fine, but everything wasn't fine. The following week, I took a long lunch break to stop by the venue unannounced. In the main office, I found our wedding planning folder moved from its spot on the active events shelf to a drawer labeled pending. While looking for Tom to ask about this, I overheard 2 staff members talking in the break room. I don't understand why Mrs. Sullivan doesn't just be honest with them, one was saying. The big wedding is definitely happening on the 15th. I've already been asked to work a double shift. It's awkward because it's her son, the other replied. But 300 guests at premium pricing versus 85 at family discount? It's not really a choice from a business perspective. My stomach dropped. I found Tom in the garden, directing the placement of new lighting fixtures along the pathways. Nice upgrades, I said, startling him. Who's paying for those? Tom had the decency to look embarrassed. Forrest, I'm just following directives. From my mother or from Aunt Pamela? Because our wedding folder is now in a drawer labeled pending, and staff are talking about working a big wedding on our date. He sighed heavily. You should talk to your mother. I've been trying to talk to my mother for weeks. She keeps avoiding me. Look, I'm caught in the middle here. Your mother is my boss, but I've known you since you helped build this place. All I can say is that money talks. Madison's father has been here 3 times in the past 2 weeks, measuring spaces and discussing renovations. I called Jessica immediately after leaving. We need a backup plan. Now. I've already started looking, she admitted. But Forrest, it's almost impossible to find an available venue for June with such short notice, and we'd lose all our deposits. That evening, I confronted Zach at his apartment. Madison answered the door, surprise evident on her face. Forrest, we weren't expecting you. I need to talk to Zach. My cousin emerged from their bedroom, a smug smile playing on his lips. What's up, cuz? You know exactly what's up. You're trying to steal our wedding date. He shrugged. Business decision. Nothing personal. Nothing personal? Jessica and I have been planning this for months. That date has special meaning for us, and it works perfectly for the band Madison wants. Look, your tiny wedding could happen anywhere. Our event needs a premium venue. It's our date, Zach. We signed a contract. He laughed. Contracts get broken all the time, especially when there's enough money involved. So you admit you're bribing my mother to break our contract. I prefer to call it upgrading the family business. Madison's father is investing in Silver Lake Gardens' future. What have you contributed lately? I had to leave before I said or did something I'd regret. On the drive home, I called my mother again. This time, she answered. We need to talk. In person. Tonight. Forrest, it's late. Can't this wait until tomorrow? No, Mom, it can't. I just spoke with Zach. I know what's happening. 30 minutes later, I sat across from her, at her kitchen table. The lines around her eyes seemed deeper than I remembered. Just tell me the truth, I said. Are you planning to cancel our wedding to give Zach and Madison our date? She stared down at her hands. It's complicated. It's a yes or no question. Robert has been having health problems, she said, referring to my uncle. Pamela's worried they won't be able to afford Madison's wedding and his medical bills. Madison's father offered to cover everything, plus donate $50,000 for venue renovations, but only if they can have the date they want. Our date. I thought maybe you and Jessica could move to the next weekend. I'd refund your deposit, of course, and give you the family discount. The family discount, I repeated incredulously. Mom, our invitations are sent. Our vendors are booked. That date has special meaning for us. And you're willing to throw all that away for money? It's not just about money, she protested weakly. It's about keeping peace in the family. Pamela's threatening to cut me off if I don't do this for Zach. And I'm your son. Doesn't that count for anything? Her silence was answer enough. The next day, Jessica's mother called her in tears. Aunt Pamela had contacted her, suggesting that Jessica and I were having relationship problems and might postpone the wedding anyway. She said we should hold off on buying our plane tickets, Jessica's mother reported. Is everything okay between you two? That was the last straw. Jessica called her parents back immediately to reassure them, then fell apart in my arms. They're trying to sabotage us from every angle, she sobbed. What did we ever do to deserve this? I held her close, anger building inside me. We're not giving up. I promise you, we will get married on June 15th at Silver Lake Gardens, just like we planned. But even as I made that promise, I wasn't sure how I would keep it. By early May, the situation had become unbearable. Our 85 invitations had long since been mailed, with RSVPs already coming in. Our vendors were confirmed with non-refundable deposits paid. Jessica had her final dress fitting scheduled, and my suit was being tailored. Meanwhile, evidence mounted that my mother was preparing to betray us. Twice more I'd visited the venue to find staff discussing the big wedding planned for our date. Madison's mother had been spotted, measuring the reception hall with an interior designer. I decided to take a day off work without telling anyone and go to the venue. When I arrived, I parked around back where my car wouldn't be immediately noticed. Through the kitchen entrance, I made my way to the hallway outside my mother's office. The door was ajar, and I could hear her speaking with Tom. I know it's a difficult situation, Tom was saying, but we need to make a decision. Vendors are calling for both events, and we can't keep giving vague answers. Madison's father is offering $50,000, my mother replied. That would cover the new roof and patio expansion we've needed for years. And what about Forrest and Jessica? They're going to be devastated. There was a long pause before my mother answered. Sometimes being a parent means making impossible choices. I love my son, but this money could secure the venue's future. And Pamela has made it clear that if I don't do this for Zach, I can forget about having a relationship with her side of the family. So you've decided then? Another pause. Yes, I'll tell Forrest this weekend. Maybe we can help them find another venue. I'd heard enough. I pushed the door open fully, startling them both. Don't bother, I said coldly. I already know. My mother stood, face pale. Forrest, I can explain. Explain what? That you're choosing money over your own son? That Aunt Pamela's manipulation is more important than your relationship with me? Or that you're willing to break a legal contract because Zach and his fiancée want what we have? It's not that simple, she protested. Actually, it is that simple. You're betraying us for money. Tom excused himself, clearly uncomfortable witnessing our family drama. $50,000 would transform this place, my mother said once we were alone. We could finally build that bridal suite you designed years ago. Don't you dare try to make this about my designs, I snapped. This is about loyalty. This is about keeping your word. This is about showing your son that he matters more than your greedy nephew and manipulative sister. Forrest, please try to understand. I'm trying to make everyone happy. By making Jessica and me miserable? By humiliating us in front of all our friends and family? How exactly does that make us happy? She had no answer for that. That evening, Jessica and I sat down to discuss our options. Her parents had offered to help pay for a different venue if we could find one. Pride isn't worth ruining our wedding, Jessica said gently. If your mother has made her choice, maybe we should accept it and move on. No, I said firmly. This isn't just about pride. It's about right and wrong. We have a contract. We have rights. And I'm not letting them steamroll us. I didn't tell Jessica yet, but I had an ace up my sleeve, one that neither my mother nor Aunt Pamela knew about. The next day, I requested an emergency meeting with my mother at her home. To my surprise, she agreed immediately. When I arrived, Aunt Pamela was there too, along with Zach and Madison. What's this, an ambush? I asked, refusing the offered seat. We thought it would be more productive to discuss this as a family, Aunt Pamela said smoothly. To reach a compromise that works for everyone. There is no compromise, I stated. June 15th is our wedding date. We have a contract, our invitations are sent, and our vendors are booked. Contracts can be broken, Zach said, echoing his earlier sentiment. It happens all the time, and family should be flexible, Aunt Pamela added. Madison's father is offering a significant investment in your mother's business. Surely you can see the benefit. All I see is my family betraying me for money. Madison spoke up, her voice sickeningly sweet. Forrest, be reasonable. Your little wedding could happen anywhere. Our event needs a special venue like Silver Lake Gardens. And Daddy is being so generous with his offer. Is that what this is about? Money? Fine. I turned to my mother. How much is my wedding worth to you? How much to keep your word to your son? She looked stricken. It's not about the money, Forrest. Then what is it about? Because from where I'm standing, you're willing to sell out your own son for venue renovations and to appease your sister. Aunt Pamela's face hardened. Now you're just being dramatic. This is a business decision, plain and simple. A business decision, I repeated. Interesting that you phrase it that way. I pulled a folder from my messenger bag and placed it on the coffee table. What's this? My mother asked. Open it. Inside was a copy of the original business agreement for Silver Lake Gardens, along with investment documentation and ownership certificates. I don't understand, Madison said, looking confused. Let me explain, I said, my voice steady. When my mother started this business 12 years ago, she needed additional capital beyond her divorce settlement. My grandfather invested $60,000 from my college fund, with the agreement that I would be a 25% owner of the business. My mother's face went pale. Aunt Pamela's eyes widened. That's right, I continued. I'm not just the son of the owner. I am an owner. And as an owner, I have legal right to review all contracts and business decisions. You never told me, Aunt Pamela whispered to my mother. It wasn't relevant, my mother replied weakly. It's relevant now, I said, because as a business owner, I'm informing you that I will not approve breaking our contract for any amount of money. Furthermore, I've scheduled a meeting with the venue's lawyer tomorrow to discuss the legal implications of attempting to do so. Madison looked at Zach uncertainly. You said this was a done deal. It is, Zach insisted, though he looked less confident. Aunt Diana already agreed. Without consulting her business partner, I pointed out, which makes any such agreement null and void. The room fell into stunned silence. Finally, my mother spoke. Forrest, I had no idea you would take this so seriously. I thought you'd understand the business opportunity, and I thought you'd understand what this wedding means to us. I thought family loyalty meant something to you. Aunt Pamela stood, gathering her purse. Diana, we need to talk privately. Madison, Zach, wait in the car. After they left, my mother buried her face in her hands. I've made a terrible mistake. Yes, I agreed. You have. Can we fix this? Can you forgive me? I wanted to say yes immediately, to hug her and pretend none of this had happened, but too many lines had been crossed. I don't know, I answered honestly. But canceling our contract is off the table. Jessica and I will be married at Silver Lake Gardens on June 15th as planned. What happens between us after that depends on how you handle things from here. As I left her house, I felt a mixture of sadness and determination. The battle wasn't over yet, but for the first time in weeks, I felt like we might actually win. 3 weeks before our wedding day, I took a week off work to help Jessica with final details. On Wednesday morning, I realized I'd left a vendor contract at home that needed to be dropped off at the venue. I'll swing by Silver Lake on my way to pick up the cake samples, I told Jessica over breakfast. Need anything while I'm there? Just confirmation that everything's still on track, she replied, the worry evident in her voice despite our recent victory. Since my revelation about being part owner, things had calmed down somewhat. My mother had called to apologize again, promising that our wedding would proceed as planned. Aunt Pamela had been suspiciously quiet. I wanted to believe the drama was over, but something still felt off. I arrived at Silver Lake Gardens around 10:30 that morning. The parking lot had several unfamiliar luxury cars, including a black Mercedes and a white Range Rover that looked like Madison's mother's vehicle. A catering van was parked by the kitchen entrance. Rather than go through the main entrance, I used my key for the side door that led directly to the administrative area. As I approached my mother's office, I heard raised voices inside. "This is ridiculous," came my Aunt Pamela's unmistakable tone. "We've already sent out our save-the-date cards. Madison's father has paid for the band's flights from Nashville. Mrs. Sullivan, I understand your frustration, Tom replied, his voice trying to maintain professionalism. But we have a signed contract for that date with Forrest and Jessica. Cancel that small wedding, Aunt Pamela demanded. We're booking for 300 guests. Madison's father is prepared to pay triple the normal rate, plus the renovation donation we discussed. There was a pause before Tom responded. I can't make that decision. Let me call the owner. That was my cue. Instead of waiting for Tom to call my mother, I pushed open the office door. Hi, Mom. What's the problem? I said, my voice cutting through the tension in the room. The scene before me froze like a tableau. My mother stood behind her desk, phone halfway to her ear. Aunt Pamela and Madison's mother sat in visitor chairs facing her. Tom stood awkwardly by the filing cabinet. And there, on my mother's desk, lay a form with my name and Jessica's clearly visible at the top. Event cancellation. The silence was deafening. Aunt Pamela recovered first. Forrest, we were just, discussing some scheduling options. Really? I picked up the cancellation form. Because it looks like you're trying to cancel my wedding behind my back. Again. My mother at least had the decency to look ashamed. Forrest, I can explain. Please do. Explain why. After everything we've discussed, after I revealed my ownership stake, after you promised me our wedding would proceed as planned, you're sitting here with a cancellation form with our names on it. Pamela said you'd reconsidered, my mother whispered. That you and Jessica had found another venue you preferred. I turned to my aunt, fury building. You lied to my mother? Aunt Pamela's face hardened. I did what needed to be done. This ridiculous power play of yours has gone on long enough. So you own 25% of the business. That still leaves 75% with your mother, who agrees this is the best decision. Actually, came a voice from the doorway. I don't agree. Jessica stood there, a box of handcrafted table decorations in her arms. She set it down and moved to my side. I came to drop these off, she explained to me quietly. Heard the commotion. Madison's mother stood up. This is a family matter. Perhaps the fiancé should wait outside. I am family, Jessica replied firmly. Or I will be in 3 weeks when Forrest and I get married, right here, on June 15th. The tension was interrupted by new arrivals. Madison and Zach appeared in the doorway, followed by Madison's father, Robert. What's going on? Madison asked, taking in the scene. Daddy, you said this was handled. Robert Davis looked annoyed. Diana assured me it would be. That's why we're here to finalize the details. There are no details to finalize, I stated. June 15th belongs to us. Zach stepped forward. Come on, Forrest. Be reasonable. Our invitations are already printed with that date. So are ours, Jessica exclaimed. 85 people have arranged travel, taken time off work. We've paid deposits to vendors. We've been planning this for months. Our wedding is more significant, Madison insisted. 300 guests, including Daddy's business associates. The governor might even attend. I don't care if the president is attending, I shot back. It's our date. My mother finally found her voice. Perhaps we could still arrange for both weddings. Forrest and Jessica in the morning, Zach and Madison in the evening. Absolutely not, Jessica and I said in unison. Madison's father cleared his throat. Diana, I was under the impression this matter was resolved. The contracts have been drawn up for the renovations. My architect is ready to begin work next week. There's been a misunderstanding, my mother began. The only misunderstanding, I interrupted, is that anyone thought they could steal our wedding date. Mom, I'm disappointed but not surprised that Aunt Pamela and Zach would try this. But you? After everything we discussed? After you promised me? She promised us too, Zach countered. Based on lies, I pointed out. Aunt Pamela told her we'd changed our minds. All eyes turned to Pamela, who shrugged unapologetically. I did what was necessary for my son's happiness. At the expense of mine, I said bitterly. The argument escalated, with Madison in tears and Zach red-faced and shouting. Madison's parents threatened to withdraw all financial support if the date wasn't secured. Aunt Pamela accused my mother of always favoring me over Zach. Through it all, Jessica stood firm beside me, her hand in mine. When the shouting reached a crescendo, she suddenly whistled loudly, silencing everyone. "Enough," she said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "This is supposed to be the happiest time of our lives, and you've turned it into a nightmare. Shame on all of you." She turned to my mother. "Diana, I've always respected you. I thought you were going to be a wonderful mother-in-law. But right now, I don't even recognize you." My mother's face crumpled. "Jessica, I'm so sorry. I got caught between impossible choices." "No," I corrected. "You had one choice. Support your son and honor your business contract, or betray both for money. You chose wrong." Madison's father had heard enough. "This is ridiculous. Diana, either you honor our arrangement, or the renovation offer is withdrawn. And if you don't," Aunt Pamela added, "you can forget about seeing Zach or any future grandchildren he might have." It was emotional blackmail, plain and simple. I watched my mother's face as she processed the threats, saw the moment she made her decision. "I'm sorry, Robert," she said quietly, "but Forrest is right. They have a contract for June 15th. I cannot and will not cancel their wedding." "Mom," Zach protested. "No, Zach. This has gone far enough. Forrest and Jessica will be married here on June 15th as planned. If you and Madison want to move your date, we can accommodate you 2 weeks later." Madison burst into tears. "But the band! They can only do the 15th. "Then book different musicians," my mother said firmly. "My decision is final." Madison's parents left in a fury, promising legal action that would never materialize. Zach stormed out, calling me every name in the book. Aunt Pamela delivered a parting shot. "You'll regret choosing him over your own sister, Diana. Mark my words." When they were gone, my mother collapsed into her chair, looking exhausted. "I've made such a mess of everything," she whispered. "Yes," I agreed. "You have." Jessica, always more forgiving than me, placed a gentle hand on my mother's shoulder. "But now you're fixing it. That's what matters." Tom, who had witnessed the entire scene, spoke up from the corner. "I'll, go cancel that catering tasting they scheduled." After he left, my mother looked up at us, her eyes filled with tears. "Can you ever forgive me?" I wasn't ready to answer that question yet. "Our wedding will proceed as planned." "Yes," she confirmed. "Just as you wanted. And the venue is exclusively ours for the entire day?" "Yes, of course. Then we'll talk about forgiveness after our honeymoon." It wasn't the reconciliation she hoped for, but it was all I could offer at that moment. As Jessica and I left the venue, I felt like I could finally breathe again. Our wedding was safe. But my relationship with my mother, and a significant portion of my extended family, lay in ruins around me. The aftermath of the confrontation left Jessica and me with mixed emotions. Relief that our wedding was secure, but sadness at the family relationships damaged in the process. "We should talk about the guest list," Jessica said that evening as we sat on our patio. "Zach and Madison obviously won't come now. Probably not your aunt and uncle either." "Good riddance," I muttered, still angry. "Forrest," Jessica said gently, "they're still your family. Family doesn't try to destroy your wedding day." She couldn't argue with that. "What about your mom? She did ultimately stand up for us in the end." I sighed, conflicted. Only after being backed into a corner. Only after I revealed my ownership stake. If I hadn't had that leverage, she'd have thrown us under the bus for Pamela's approval and renovation money. "Maybe," Jessica acknowledged. "But she did make the right choice eventually. That has to count for something." My phone buzzed with a text from Tom. "Madison's father withdrew the renovation offer. Your mother could use some support right now." I showed Jessica the message. "You should go see her," Jessica urged. "Not for her sake. For yours." She was right, as usual. An hour later, I sat in my mother's living room. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Robert Davis called the bank and canceled the renovation loan paperwork," she said without preamble. "Pamela's not speaking to me. Zach returned the family heirloom cufflinks I gave him for Christmas." "I'm sorry it came to this," I said, meaning it. "But they left us no choice." "I know." She twisted her hands in her lap. "I should have stood up to Pamela from the beginning. I've always struggled with her, Ever since we were kids, I've wanted her approval, even at the cost of your relationship with me." She winced. "I never thought it would go this far. I thought I could find a compromise that would make everyone happy." "Mom, there was no compromise that would have made us happy. June 15th is our day. The only acceptable outcome was for Zach and Madison to pick another date." "I see that now." She hesitated. "There's something else you should know. The venue has been struggling financially this past year. The pandemic hit us hard, and we're still recovering. Robert's renovation offer wasn't just about appeasing Pamela. It was about keeping Silver Lake Gardens afloat. This was news to me. Why didn't you tell me? I'm part owner. I didn't want you to worry. I thought I could handle it. By sacrificing my wedding day? It was wrong. I know that now." She took a deep breath. "Forrest, I don't expect your forgiveness, but I do want you to know how deeply sorry I am." I studied her face, seeing the mother who had raised me alone after my father left, who had built a business from nothing, who had always supported my dreams. She had made a terrible mistake, but she was still my mother. "The venue's financial troubles," I said slowly. "How bad are they?" She showed me the books. The situation wasn't dire yet, but trending in the wrong direction. Without the renovation money, they would need to make some difficult decisions in the coming months. "I might be able to help," I said finally. "My team at Axiom just completed a major project that's being implemented across the company. I was planning to use my bonus for our honeymoon, but—" "No," she interrupted firmly. "You will not spend your honeymoon money on this business. This is my problem to solve." "Our problem," I corrected. "I'm 25% owner, remember?" Over the next 2 hours, we developed a strategy to address the venue's financial challenges. My software background gave me insights into modernizing their booking and management systems. We identified several areas where costs could be cut without sacrificing quality. "What about the advisory board?" I asked, referring to the small group of business leaders my mother had assembled when starting Silver Lake Gardens. "I haven't convened them in over a year," she admitted. "With everything going on, call them. They have expertise we can leverage, and connections that might help." By the time I left that night, we had the beginnings of a business recovery plan. More importantly, we had taken the first steps toward repairing our relationship. The next morning, I called an emergency meeting with the venue's staff. Tom, the head chef Mario, the groundskeeper Luis, and the events coordinator Sophia gathered in the main office. "As some of you know, there's been some family drama around my upcoming wedding," I began. "What you might not know is that I'm actually part owner of Silver Lake Gardens." Their surprised expressions confirmed my suspicion that my mother had kept this information private. "The venue is facing some financial challenges," I continued. "But Jessica and I are committed to its success, as I know all of you are. So I'd like your input on how we can improve operations and attract more business." Their ideas were insightful and practical. Sophia suggested targeted marketing to corporate retreats during the off-season. Mario proposed special tasting events to showcase the venue's farm-to-table menu. Luis had ideas for reducing water usage in the gardens without affecting their beauty. "One more thing," I added as the meeting concluded. "My mother made a mistake in considering canceling our contract, but she made the right decision in the end, under tremendous pressure. I hope you'll all continue to support her leadership." Tom spoke for the group. "We're behind you both, 100%, Forrest, and we're looking forward to your wedding." The next week was a whirlwind of activity. My mother reconvened the advisory board, who were shocked to learn how close she'd come to breaking our contract. That would have been business suicide, Harold Peterson, a retired judge, declared. The reputational damage alone would have been devastating, not to mention the potential legal implications, added Sarah Chen, a corporate attorney. Forrest and Jessica could have sued for breach of contract and won substantial damages. With the board's support, we secured a modest business loan for necessary maintenance, far less than what Madison's father had offered, but without the strings attached. Most surprisingly, several longtime clients of the venue, hearing rumors of what had transpired, reached out to express their support. 2 even booked anniversary parties for the following year, paying deposits in advance to help with cash flow. "The community is rallying around us," my mother marveled. "I never expected this. People value integrity," I told her, and they respect businesses that honor their commitments. As our wedding day approached, Zach made one last desperate attempt to change the outcome. He showed up at my apartment one evening, clearly drunk. "You've ruined everything," he slurred. "Madison's parents are making us get married at the country club like common people." I almost laughed at the absurdity. "The country club is a beautiful venue, Zach. It's not what she wanted. And now her father is questioning if I'm even good enough for her. This is your fault." "No, it's your fault. You tried to take something that wasn't yours. Actions have consequences." He lunged at me then, a wild swing that I easily sidestepped. He stumbled, catching himself on the wall. "You've always had everything handed to you," he said bitterly. "The perfect son, the successful career, the devoted fiancé, even part ownership of the venue. None of that was handed to me, Zach. I worked for everything I have. Maybe it's time you did the same." I closed the door on his protests, sad for the cousin I'd grown up with, but relieved to have stood my ground. The day before our wedding, my mother presented us with an unexpected gift, a framed copy of our original venue contract, with a handwritten note promising that Silver Lake Gardens would always be available to us for anniversaries, vow renewals, or any other special occasions, free of charge. "It's not enough to make up for what happened," she acknowledged, "but I want you to know that your place here is guaranteed, always." Jessica hugged her immediately. I hesitated only a moment before joining them. "Thank you, Mom," I said softly. "That means a lot." As we embraced, I realized that while the past few months had been incredibly difficult, they had also taught me valuable lessons about standing up for what matters, about not letting others dictate my happiness, and about the true meaning of family. These weren't the pre-wedding memories I'd imagined having, but perhaps they were the ones I needed. June 15th dawned clear and perfect, with just enough breeze to rustle the leaves around the gazebo where Jessica and I would say our vows. I stood at the kitchen window of the venue's preparation suite, watching early morning light dance across the lake. "Nervous?" asked Jeff, my best man and college roommate who would be playing guitar for the ceremony. "Strangely, no," I replied truthfully. "After everything we've been through to make this day happen, actually getting married feels like the easy part." The past 3 weeks had been surprisingly peaceful. Aunt Pamela, Zach, and Madison maintained their distance, which was fine by me. Several family members had declined our invitation out of loyalty to them, but most had chosen to attend, unwilling to miss a family wedding regardless of the drama. My mother had thrown herself into making our day perfect, personally overseeing every detail. It was her way of making amends, and while it didn't erase what had happened, I appreciated the effort. At the rehearsal dinner the night before, she had stood before our closest friends and family and publicly apologized for nearly canceling our wedding. "I lost sight of what's truly important," she had said, voice trembling slightly. "I'm deeply grateful that Forrest and Jessica have found it in their hearts to forgive me, and I promise that nothing will ever come between us again." Jessica had squeezed my hand under the table, her eyes asking if I was okay. I nodded, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. The applause that followed my mother's speech felt like closure. Now, as I adjusted my tie and prepared to take my place at the gazebo, Tom knocked on the door. "Everything's ready," he reported. 83 guests seated, perfect weather, and one beautiful bride waiting to walk down the aisle. Jessica and I had decided against the tradition of not seeing each other before the ceremony. After everything we'd been through, we'd gotten ready together that morning, helping each other with last-minute details and sharing quiet moments of anticipation. "She looks stunning," I said, smiling at the memory of Jessica in her gown. "That she does," Tom agreed. "Your grandfather would have been proud today, Forrest. Of the gazebo, of the man you've become, of how you handled everything." The mention of my grandfather brought unexpected emotion. "I wish he could be here." "In a way, he is," Tom said, gesturing toward the gazebo. "Every time I see that structure, I think of the summer you two built it. His craftsmanship, your design." I nodded, too moved to speak. Taking a deep breath, I headed outside to take my place. The ceremony was everything we'd hoped for. Jessica walked down the aisle to Jeff's acoustic rendition of our favorite song. My mother, seated in the front row, dabbed at her eyes. The 83 guests who had chosen to attend were the ones who truly mattered to us. Our vows, written by ourselves, spoke not only of love and commitment, but of standing together through challenges, of fighting for what matters, of choosing each other every day. "I promise to be your partner in all things," I said, looking into Jessica's eyes. "To face whatever comes our way together, to never let anyone or anything come between us." "I promise to stand by your side," Jessica replied, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. Through family drama and venue crises, through software deadlines and physical therapy emergencies, through all of life's unexpected turns, there was gentle laughter at this reference to our recent ordeal, an acknowledgement that we could now find humor in what had been so painful. After the ceremony, during the reception in the beautifully decorated hall, my mother approached us, champagne glass in hand. "I have a surprise for you," she said, leading us to a quiet corner. "I've decided to change the ownership structure of Silver Lake Gardens. As of this morning, you and Jessica each own 25%, giving you joint controlling interest. The business that's been in our family should remain in the family, through both of you." Jessica gasped. "Diana, we can't accept that." "You can and you will," my mother insisted. "It's not just a gift. It's my way of ensuring this kind of situation never happens again. Besides, Forrest has proven himself more than capable of making sound business decisions. With your administrative background, Jessica, you'd make a formidable team." I hugged my mother tightly. "Thank you for everything." The reception continued into the evening, a joyful celebration, unmarred by the absence of certain family members. Jessica and I danced beneath strings of lights in the garden, savoring every moment of the day we'd fought so hard to preserve. As we prepared to leave for our honeymoon the next morning, I reflected on everything we'd learned through this experience. First, the importance of standing firm when you know you're right. If we'd given in to pressure, if we'd accepted the first hints of compromise, we would have lost our perfect day. Second, the recognition that sometimes family isn't defined by blood, but by who stands with you when it matters. Jessica's unwavering support, Tom's quiet assistance, even the venue staff who had voiced their concerns about the situation, all had become family in ways my aunt and cousin never truly were. Third, the power of having proper documentation and knowing your rights. My grandfather's foresight in making me part owner had ultimately saved our wedding day. Without that leverage, the outcome might have been very different. Most importantly, I learned that relationships can survive betrayal if there's genuine remorse and concrete action to make amends. My mother had made a terrible mistake, but her subsequent efforts to repair the damage had rebuilt much of the trust between us. 1 year later, Silver Lake Gardens is thriving under our shared management. The business recovery plan we implemented has yielded positive results, with bookings up 30%. My mother has taken a step back from day-to-day operations, enjoying semi-retirement while still consulting on special projects. Aunt Pamela eventually reached out with a half-hearted apology, motivated more by loneliness than genuine remorse. We maintained cordial but distant relations. Zach and Madison got married at the country club, and from what I hear, the event was beautiful if not exactly what they'd envisioned. Jessica and I visit the gazebo every month, sometimes just to sit and appreciate the peace. We're expecting our first child in the fall, a boy we plan to name William after my grandfather who built that special place with me. Life isn't perfect. Family relationships remain complicated. But when I look at where we are now, compared to the chaos of last spring, I'm profoundly grateful for the strength we found to stand our ground. Have you ever had to fight for something that was rightfully yours? What did you learn from the experience? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. Share this video if you know someone going through family drama who needs a reminder to stand firm. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, sometimes the hardest battles lead to the most beautiful victories.